Okay, Sefirot to Omer, kind of the Omer. We're in Tiferet of Tiferet. That's today. So I apologize for getting this out a little bit late. But Kabbalah teaches that Tiferet is a spiritual energy of truth and justice, not just beauty. It is said that when the same Sephirah is doubled, it creates a powerful connection between two Sephirot. So this connection helps share our understanding of universal energies and how they interact. So Midat HaEmet, the measure of truth, is the guiding principle behind Tiferet, which seeks to create balance and harmony in the universe. So Yaakov Avinu, so Jacob our father, is rooted in the Midah, or the measure or quality of Tiferet. And according to the prophet Micah, Yaakov was given the midah of emet. So that's the Micah. So Yaakov was given the measure of truth. So this can be found in the book of Micah or Micah, chapter 7, verse 20. The verse reads, Titen emet le Yaakov, meaning you give truth to Yaakov. This verse is a powerful reminder that Yaakov, who is representative of Tiferet, was given emet, truth. So Tiferet is not necessarily beauty, rather it is midat ha-emet, truth. So the combination of both truth and beauty together is known as Tiferet Shebed Tiferet, which means beauty within truth. This can be further expressed in two ways, either Yofi hi ba'emet, beauty is truth, or alternatively, ha'emet hi yofi, truth is beauty. So this way, the real beauty in creation, the yofi, can be appreciated. So according to the teachings of Kabbalah, everything in creation has a soul, a nefesh. This includes not only human beings, but also animals and even inanimate objects. So according to the Ari HaKadosh, the Arizal, each of these creations is made up of three components, nefesh, ruach, and neshama. For Jews, there exists a fourth and fifth component, chaya and yechida. And those are actually sourced from the Tanakh, the Hebrew Bible. So it's not that they were just making this up. So anything that is spiritual is understood to have a neshama, including the midot. So this neshama is a spiritual power that brings any spiritual entity to life and gives them energy. So da'at, which is the soul of Tiferet, carries an important significance in Kabbalah. It is at the core of both Ramak and the Arizal's teachings and holds a deep connection to our innermost understanding of knowledge. When he says the Ramak, he's I don't have the book in front of me, but Tomer Devorah. Tomer Devorah actually goes over that specific verse that we're dealing with. So by embracing Da'at, we can find strength within ourselves that transcends fear and negativity. Each Sephira contains the other 10 Sephirot. So the Neshama, the soul, has 125 levels because it includes 5 different levels. So each of these 5 is further made up of 5, resulting in a total of 125 levels of Neshama. I'm not exactly which, 5 times 5 times 5 is, I think is what they're trying to say there. So the Neshama has 125 levels, which symbolize its spiritual capacity to receive godly revelation. So rather than imagining the levels as steps, it's more like an onion with multiple layers. As technology becomes more advanced, before Mashiach comes, this allows people to start relating to God with a deeper sense of spirituality and understanding. So when making the decision between a 12 gigabyte and 64 gigabyte phone, it might seem like there are no major differences between the two. However, their storage capacities vary drastically. While one might have 64 gigabytes of storage, the other may have only 12. So this comparison is similar to memory cards. Though they may be physically identical sizes, the capacity can differ greatly. The same with the neshama. The neshama, or soul, exists on different levels. Each of these levels has its own capacity. It can receive divine light, but to truly benefit from it is something else entirely. It takes more than merely receiving the light to attain the true chokhmah, or wisdom. So to reach a greater level of understanding and knowledge, one must be able to channel this light in a meaningful way. So the soul of the Midat Tiferet is Da'at. So the measure of Tiferet, or beauty, is Da'at, knowledge. And this is the lowest of all intellectual Sefirot. So we discussed Machshavot, or thoughts, today. By looking at the structure of the Sefirot, you can understand that beauty and completion exist in harmony. So this is Emet, or truth. Things that are incomplete, don't work in harmony, are not beautiful or true. The stamp of Hashem is Emet, truth. Everything is Emet. To know the truth, one must observe completion, beauty, and harmony. Tiferet of Tiferet is the combination of beauty and truth together. Tiferet of Tiferet is a manifestation of beauty and truth intertwined together. This concept is known as a hitkalelut in Hebrew. A perfect example of something being included within each other can be seen in the unity of the physical and spiritual worlds. The physical world, as we know it, is only possible because of the spiritual energies that flow through it. So by recognizing this connection between these two realms, we can appreciate both how unique and intertwined they are. So an example of hitkalalut in the physical world can be seen in a cup of coffee. Water and instant coffee mixed together form a single, inseparable mixture. So with each ingredient included inside the other. This is the same concept as hitkalalut. So where two separate elements become intertwined together inextricably. Just as one cannot take apart the coffee from the water, neither can one divide beauty from truth. The Torah is our reference for everything. So where do we find this idea of hitkalalut in the Torah? Unsurprisingly, by Yaakov Avinu. So Yaakov Avinu was said to be as handsome as Adam Arishon, Adam the first man, according to a midrash. So this physical beauty was a sign of his spiritual beauty made by Kadosh Baruch Hu, the Holy One, blessed be He. So he was so breathtakingly beautiful that he was referred to as Tiferet Israel, the beauty of Israel. At the same time, Yaakov Avinu demonstrated an ability to balance inner emet with external beauty. So midat ha'emet. He was able to hold these principles within himself, something we can all aspire to. Very interestingly, emet, which is truth, has a numerical value of 441. The word beauty, yofi, has a numerical value of 100. So when these two are put together, you get 541. So the numerical value of 541 is that of Israel. Yaakov Avinu's exalted name. So Yaakov means Yod Hakev. So he's the lower part, but still holding the Yod of Yod K Vav K. So, however, when referring to Israel, it is a higher level and a higher spiritual state. But nevertheless, beauty and truth combined together, bringing you the midah of Yaakov Avinu, whose name was Israel. So the same numerical value of 541. So what is the connection between beauty and Israel? This beautiful connection is demonstrated by taking the words beauty and truth together, which brings us to Israel. We learned yesterday and the day before that beauty is not necessarily something physical. We contemplated if we should be attracted to beauty. It is innate in us to be attracted to beauty. So one person may be attracted to a beautiful car, another person to a piece of jewelry, yet another may be attracted to a work of art. Ultimately, we are all drawn to beauty in some way. So the question we posed yesterday was whether we should be attracted to beauty, and the answer was a definitive no. So Shlomo HaMelech, so King Solomon said, Sheker hachein v'hevel hayofi. So when talking about beauty, it is important to focus on spiritual beauty rather than physical beauty. The root of beauty is found in a higher realm. Everything here on earth, this earth, is the last stop in the descending chain, meaning that it has passed down from something beyond us. Therefore, if something appears in this world, it must have a root somewhere above. When considering the root of beauty, the concept of emet, or truth from Kabbalah, holds the answer. So emet is the divine idea behind it. And as stated before, its soul is da'at. So how can we practically apply this idea? So one way is to think of something beautiful in our lives, such as a view outside the window or a painting or a poem. So find something beautiful and meditate on it. Ask yourself if what you're seeing is true or false. Is it the emet or something else? Similarly, we can look at something in life that we know to be true and ask ourselves if it is also beautiful. So think of something you know is true and contemplate the beauty of it as well. We must try to combine beauty and truth and make sure that both are present in order to recognize something as emet. There is an old saying in Hebrew that something that is deceptive or sheker is mechoar, ugly. Something is false is ugly. So similarly in English, we can say that if something is a lie, it is not attractive or nice. In order to find beauty, we need to look for the beauty within truth and the truth within beauty. It is important to be able to combine these two concepts together for us to truly appreciate life. The Torah is clear that one should constantly pursue truth. It warns against a number of behaviors, including stealing and killing, but it does one step further and urges us to abstain from falsehood. This warning comes straight from the Torah, emphasizing how seriously God takes lying and deception. We must strive to move away from anything that is a lie. We should strive to always look for the truth or emet in everything. And we need to use our insight and judgment known as da'at to decipher what is real and what isn't. So falsehood or sheker will never be appealing. So it's important that we try to uncover the truth no matter what we are presented with. So to harness the power of Tiferet when facing any situation, it is important to keep truth honestly at the forefront. Keeping midat emet within oneself means always being honest and never lying or deceiving. So admitting to mistakes and flaws is also an essential part of this principle, as it helps us to grow and reach our potential. This is how we reach a balance in life that leads to greater success as well as true happiness. And it's very interesting. I'm reading this about truth. And here in the background, I'm digging into the whole idea of the fraudulent Dead Sea Scrolls that was purchased by the Museum of the Book. And hopefully I'll have some long videos on this in the future, but I'm not sure exactly. But basically, if someone's not up on this, it's very funny because Hashem safeguards truth forever. So we don't need the Dead Sea Scrolls to authenticate that the Jewish Bible is correct, because that it's not been changed over these thousands of years, because if we believe in that principle, okay. So it's not that we need, something like that to happen. But with that whole mess, there was a whole bunch of sectarian text, and there's some very interesting things that happened with it all. And so some years back with the Museum of the Bible, they had 16 Dead Sea Scroll fragments, and they tested them. There were some things that some people noticed, because you have people now that have their hands on these things, that the scrolls that are locked away with the legit scholarly system. Not just everybody can go check that kind of stuff out. So there was some scrolls on the black market, or not black market, this is on the dealer market of antiquities, and they got purchased by the Museum of the Book. And there was actually more than one dealer. I think it was like 5 dealers. But one of the dealers was the family of the original, one of the original people who had these scrolls, Discovery, the condo. So Kando. And so, but the scrolls were authenticated by the Museum of the Book by Emmanuel Tov, who published an authentication publication in Brill, a very academic, publisher, over 200 pages, authenticating what the Museum of the Book had as legit Dead Sea Scrolls. And here, some people that actually had their hands on them with that museum was like, some of the stuff doesn't look right. We need to get this stuff tested. They tested it in multiple different ways scientifically. They have a scientific report that I have on another computer over here. It's like over 200 pages long. And Emmanuel Tov had to retract his published publication from Brill, but it throws a lot of dark light on the rest of the Dead Sea Scrolls. And actually, the ones that were actually carbon tested originally, and actually in some cases multiple times, they were the biblical text, not the sectarian documents. There was sectarian documents that were carbon tested, and they came back to be like as young as the 4th century, and they had them retested again by somebody else, and like it was just a whole mess, and they never touched the sectarian stuff again. And even to this day, like there's some crazy stuff, like they did DNA tests on some of these scrolls, and they found out, oh, this is cow skin. Like, you know what? If anybody knows anything about cow skin, to fill in, the boxes are made out of cowhide because they're nice, thick, and structural. But whenever you want the nice thin stuff, like they would go with like sheepskin and goat skin and stuff like that, because it was a little bit easier for rolling and everything. You know where you find cow? You find that in codex form. So Christians, their Bibles were in codex form. And whenever they got to that point, they started using, if they went away from papyrus, they started using calfskin, vellum. And it's interesting because if you look at the pictures in like these Dead Sea Scrolls archives, we can look at the photos and everything, they literally have straight edges on some of these, like they literally came out of a codex. Because if it was from a scroll, you'd have stitching on this side and stitching on this side. But apparently these professionals have not seen this stuff, or I don't know. I'm sure that there's people who raise red flags, but nobody listens to them because they want things like that to be like true and verifiable and everything. But the whole story of the Dead Sea Scrolls, going back and looking at it, it is so suspicious. It is so absolutely suspicious. Truth will spring up from the earth.